game is special to me. I like games, but it's just I love hurling.
The back's not standing on ceremony, getting it up first time to
the speed and the thrills of it, and to say that a man can control a flying hurling ball and in a flick of an eye put it flying over the bar or into the back of the net. So it's bound to rise the men out of their graves, isn't it?
for John Fenton. Oh, what a brilliant goal!
It's a marvellous game. It's special. People from all over the world are attracted to it when they see it. It's probably the skill level involved is very high, the speed at which it's played, the ball control that's needed, the bravery that's needed.
Right half forward, marked by Pato O'Connor.
Standing in the square would say, as you would as a forward, like with the 70 about to be lobbed in or something. There's nothing, I think, to approach the sort of gushing of the blood to the brain in anticipation of that and the man-to-man combat.
Spotted a complete gap. You can see the gap.
The caressing of the sliotar with the hurley, if you want to look at it as that. There is a tremendous satisfaction in handling the hurley and the skill of driving that ball.
If you took it out of my life, I don't know what would happen at all. I don't know what would do. It's everything. It's the greatest field game in the world.
Hurling is the fastest field game in the world. Even those who see it played for the first time marvel at the way play switches from end to end and the skill of the players in controlling the scudding ball. Dedicated followers of the game, who are able to appreciate these skills more fully, store incidents in their mind's eye to be savoured again in tranquility. Nobody knows how the game originated in Ireland. It is older than written history. Hurling is reputed to have played it as a boy, walking the Cooley Mountains and hurling the ball ahead of him as he travelled. This folkloric event is commemorated by an annual competition held in this area, known as an Pogfada, in which hurlers from all over Ireland try to cover the set course in the least number of strokes. The heroic image prevails. Great hurlers in modern times are referred to as being in the tradition of Hurling. Men like Christy Ring of Cork or Mick Mackey of Limerick, who were capable of changing the course of the game with unique individual skills. Ballads were composed about Ring in his lifetime. When he died, huge crowds came to pay their respects. The Taoiseach of the day, Jack Lynch, himself a hurler who played with Ring, spoke his emotional tribute at the graveside in Cloyne.
As long as young men will match their hurling skills against each other on Ireland's green fields, as long as young boys swing their commands with the sheer thrill of the feel and the tingle in their fingers of the impact of ash and leather, as long as hurling is played, the story of Christy Ring will be told, and that will be forever.
Like other elements in the national culture, hurling came close to extinction. By the end of the 19th century, it seemed to those who cared that it could not survive in its disorganised state. Michael Cusack from the Burren in County Clare resolved to regularise its rules and restore its strength. It was one of his principal reasons for founding the GAA in 1884. After 100 years, it still remains a minority sport nationally. Gaelic football is played in every county in Ireland, even in places like Kilkenny, Tipperary and Cork, where hurling has more popular appeal. Still the game lived on, even in small isolated areas, far from what are now its strongholds, the most isolated being Ballycastle in north-east Antrim.
Our own club was formed in 1907 here, and prior to that there are stories of hurling, or a type of hurling been played on the beach at White Park Bay, which is slightly north of here. My grandfather then would have been playing on the championship teams in 1913, 1914, and the next championship winning teams here was in 1933, and on that team my father's eldest brother, my Uncle Eddie, would have played. In the championship teams from 44 to 54, my uncles Paddy, Brendan and Dermot would have played, and in the championship teams from 1964 up to date, myself, my brothers Eddie, Desmond and Brian would all have played and featured in championship teams here.
Across the North Channel in Scotland, a game called shinty, Commonach in Gaelic, is played. It is in fact an old form of hurling and was brought to Scotland by the Irish invaders. It is played mainly on the ground, but the stick is shaped so as to give the ball a lift when struck off the ground. Attempts have been made to play games between Irish hurlers and Scottish shinty players under compromise rules. However, the similarities have almost been cancelled by differences which place shinty closer to hockey than to hurling. So far, international matches have not been successful, but attempts to achieve a better compromise continue. The fact that the historical hurling areas are so clearly defined, as well as the fact that hurling has not spread significantly beyond these areas, led people to believe that unless you grew up with the game, you had no hope of mastering it. There is, however, another side to this assumption.
I don't really go along with the traditional background. You know, in Tipperary they say you have to be from mid-Tipperary. And I think if you look back, Babs Keaton wasn't from a traditional background. He was from a place where there was mainly football played. I myself was from a place that there was mainly a football background. So I think it's quite possible that a person in any part of the country could become a hurler with proper coaching and with proper ambition, I suppose, if you like, could become a good hurler.
Nicholas English is one of the most stylish and effective forwards in the modern game. Tipperary's revival in the 80s owes much to his accuracy from play and from frees. His background in football was obvious and very useful when he scored a famous goal against Cork in the Munster final in 1987 by dribbling the ball with his feet after he had lost his stick.
In my thinking, there's no such thing as traditional counties. There are counties that have won All-Irelands, and there are counties that are favoured to win All-Irelands. But that shouldn't stop Clare, it shouldn't stop Dublin, it shouldn't stop Waterford, it shouldn't stop Laois coming up, and if they do the right work, and if their basics are right, and if they have the same skills as Tipperary, or the same skills as Kilkenny, or the same skills as Galway, or the same skills as Cork, then they should beat them.
That the basic skills of hurling can be broken down, demonstrated and taught was shown in the first instructional film in colour, made with the great master, Christy Ring. As part of that film, the camera was kept on Ring during the National League final of 1960 against Tipperary, played in Cork. At half-time, having scored 2 goals and 3 points, he said to the film crew as he left the field, "Sorry lads, that's the best I could do for you." Tipperary won, but Christy Ring displayed many of his skills, as well as his boyish delight after scoring. In the instructional sequences, he shows how to meet a ball as it comes towards you on the ground, how to double on a ground ball, the taking of frees, and other skills chosen by himself. In the fast and sometimes furious play of competitive hurling, many of the skills are not always clearly seen by the uninitiated. Apart from set pieces like the pucking out of the ball from the goal, the taking of close and long distance frees, the sideline cuts, and most of all perhaps spectacular saves by goalkeepers. Other skills include blocking and hooking, catching the ball in the air while using the hurley as protection, and shooting for goals and points, often quite closely marked.
Teddy McCarthy, what a lovely catch. In yet again. Off the line by Tommy Quaid. Comes the backlash. Back to the experienced Fennelly. Looking around with good combined play by the Leinster champions. Sean Fennelly. Over the bar. Teddy McCarthy now hold on to it. It comes to Colin Bonner. They're in a bit of trouble now. Nice delivery to Tony O'Connor. They go for a goal or a point. They went for a goal. They came over to Brown. Martin Doyle. Quickly closed down by Tipperary government. The middle loose man outside as Martin Loughlin took his equaliser. It's a goal! Galway's got in front.
While the rules of hurling cause little controversy and are regarded as being close to perfection, they are reviewed occasionally. Joe McDonough was chairman of a committee that scrutinised them recently.
Many people, I suppose, would have expected a hurling work group, rules revision committee as such, to come up with some radical proposals. And we certainly found a need to, as it were, make a stand on the point of how healthy the rules are, and in general how healthy the game of hurling is from the rules point of view. Having said that, the only area that we found a necessity for change was in some technical areas where really very often the football rules and hurling rules tend to contradict each other.
Some players have succeeded in playing football and hurling to a high standard. Jack Lynch won All-Irelands in both codes. But dual players are rarer now than they were 50 years ago, although Cork still produces more of them than any other county. The last outstanding example of a player to achieve an exceptionally high standard in both games was Jimmy Barry Murphy.
Looking back at it, my main reason for continuing to play both games so long is a fear that if you upload one, they'll know soon will you upload Milburn Noller and you won't be part of it, and there's that fear, you know. So I would say you try and play it as long as you can because you're getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. There certainly comes a stage then when your play begins to suffer because of the pressure of playing so many games, and I certainly felt that personally. You know, maybe other fellas can get away with it, but I found that I wasn't playing well at hurling and football, and at the time had come to make a decision either concentrate on one game, or I felt my standards were going to suffer, and I just picked hurling because I'd always preferred hurling.
I played both games and used to always consider football being, as it were, light entertainment as opposed to the serious business of hurling. Having said that, I suppose that there was one point between about the two games, and one of the difficulties, I suppose, in the promotion of the game that you get both being under the umbrella of the association, we tend at times to have a difficulty in promoting both of them side by side, and that very often it is the hurling that gives in, perhaps in a dual club in particular.
Shortly after the Norman invasion, the game of hurling became part of the political change that took place in Ireland. It appealed to the sports-conscious Normans, and that interest brought them into close contact with the native Irish. The Statutes of Kilkenny, promulgated in 1367, sought to halt the rapid Gaelicisation of the Normans. The speaking of Irish, intermarriage with the Irish, and the playing of hurling were among the forbidden activities. In time, the landed gentry did much to keep hurling alive in the 18th and early 19th centuries. They were the game's first sponsors. Teams could win large sums of money, 1,000 guineas for winning a game not being unusual. Birr, in the centre of Offaly's small traditional hurling area, is a good example of what became known as a garrison town, with its walled estate and castle. Here, in Birr Community School, the seeds of hurling's most dramatic breakthrough in recent times were sown. In 1981, Offaly beat Galway to win their first All-Ireland final. Pádraig Horan, who was captain on that historic occasion, teaches in the community school. A lot of the credit for what happened in Birr can be given to one man, the principal of the community school, Brother Dennis.
Well, we are at the centre of the hurling club area in Offaly, and we have got the children whose parents are very interested in hurling, especially the rural clubs, well, the town as well, but there's a great tradition here. And all we did really was to take it from there. We were fortunate to have a team of teachers who were very interested and still are very interested. We're still one of the premier schools in Leinster.
Kevin, we're going to take you out now at this stage. Corner forward. Give your jersey to Kevin. Ronan, backing corner back. Alan Ryan. Out centre field. Stephen. Off. Get rid of you for her.
Offaly, I think, is the best example we can take, and the way that the community school in Bar has probably revitalised hurling to a tremendous degree. And if you look at the successful Offaly senior teams of the 80s, most of those are past pupils of Bar. So I think they have given the lead and shown what can be done.
Cork has won more hurling All-Irelands than even Kilkenny or Tipperary, and the strength of Cork hurling is in the city. Cork City contradicts all the logical theories about hurling belonging on the flat plains close to a supply of ash. In these narrow, sloping streets, hurling rules supreme.
Christy Rick, he hooped the ball, we hooped to steep ball and all. Here's up for Mars, says the boys of Fair Hill. Come boys, we'll spend the day with our hurling club so gay. The clash of the ash, it would make your heart thrill. And Connor Hayes is near the square, but Jimmy Barney Murphy's also there. Here's up from us, the boys of Fair Hill.
There always seems to be a great tradition of hurling in the city areas. St Finbarr's, Blackrock and Den Rovers, in the three different sections of the city, built up a tremendous tradition of their own. And in the rural areas, you had places like Middleton and Clodagh who were equally hotbeds of hurling, although they wouldn't have had the population that the city clubs had. And an intense rivalry developed over the years between these clubs. And that rivalry, in my opinion, has helped to be the bedrock for Cork hurling. And even though there is great intensity between the clubs and rivalry is often gets out of hand at times, we might say, it never seems to go into the inter-county arena. And I think that's why Cork, in my opinion, has been such consistently top county over the years of hurling.
That's a good ball, Bill. Well done, Clark.
Charlie McCarthy, who has his own place in the history of Cork hurling, trains the famous bars.
Keep coming with it now. What blocking, Billy? Well done, covered, Bill. Well done. Go away with it now. Go away with it. That's good hurling.
When the Cork hurling team are going well, you can feel it both in the city and county. People get a tremendous kick out of it. Remember the last All-Ireland final we won 1986 against Galway. We weren't a fancy team. I wouldn't say we had an outstanding team, but the fact that we were such underdogs and we came out and won, people seem to get an even greater kick out of it than usual.
Central to the playing of the game is the hurley itself, and it has changed just as the style of the game has changed. These old sticks from the collection in the National Museum show how the hurley has developed from something resembling an ice hockey stick to the present-day wide-bossed hurley. Some players like to get sticks made specially for them and carry a selection with them to important games. The relationship of a player to his stick is a special one, not easily comprehended by outsiders. Here in Kilkenny City, Rémy Dowling, former county and provincial goalkeeper, makes hurleys in a small but productive workshop in his own backyard. It is a business, but it is also a labour of love. People drop in just to discuss the previous Sunday's or next Sunday's games, local and national. It typifies an atmosphere and an attitude that makes hurlers in all parts of Ireland a breed apart.
The present day hurling, as far as the running end of it is concerned, is faster. But I don't know about the actual playing of the game, because there no man can run as quick as a man that can hit a hurling ball. I think the smaller hurley was a more perfect thing altogether, and you could use it quicker, hit a ball quicker, and even some of our great men that use big hurleys, with this big lad, they're able to be blocked down and stopped.
Rémy's sons, Brian and Tom, work on the final phases of shaping, smoothing and binding the sticks with a metal band. Between them they produce an average of about 5 dozen sticks a day. For all that it plays second fiddle to football nationally, interest in the playing of hurling has increased in recent years, as have attendances at matches. Still, the making of the essential requirement is a business fraught with some uncertainty. The chief one concerns the availability of the basic element.
Well, the supply of ash at the moment is not wonderful. It, as a matter of fact, as far as the ordinary supply years ago from farmers' places, that's completely gone. We're now depending completely on the supply from the forestry department. And I don't know what's going to happen if that ever ends. The makers have a lot to be blamed for as far as the price of ash is concerned, because it's an open tender, and I go to beat one company and another company come to beat me, with the result that was driven up in the clouds. Unless county boards and things like that give a little hand and put wasteland into the plantation of ash, it could help a lot.
There was a time when a fractured hurley was thrown away like a smashed one. These sticks have been handed in for repair. It forms an increasing part of Rémy Dowling's business, and is indeed a sign of the times. But, as we see, a hurley can have a very limited lifespan, and equipping a team in any grade is an expensive business. Mass production is important, particularly if the campaign for a hurling revival is to succeed. Joe Connolly, who made that famous victory speech when he captained Galway in 1980, their first All-Irelands in almost 60 years, runs a hurley making and sportswear factory near Galway City. Here hurleys are produced on a greater scale than the smaller traditional makers are capable of achieving. But it could scarcely be called mass production. The fact is that the making of hurleys from ash is a slow, painstaking and labour-intensive process. Machines can be used to increase production, but sticks must still be prepared and finished individually.
The possibility of plastic or hurleys of a type must be investigated, because by the nature of the game itself, hurleys don't have a long lifespan anyway, and if the material is keep being used like that and is relatively scarce, it might leave a shortness of hurleys, which I think would be best cured by artificial ones, which are there year in, year out. A well-balanced, nicely shaped, nicely weighed plastic hurley, I think, would have a great chance, especially for underage, because when the helmets came out first, people says that'll never catch on, kind of thing, like the old hurler says never, 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 but then look at our Irelands now, even adults, most of them are wearing helmets. And the same way with the plastic hurley, I think that there might be something to be overcome, but I think that it's a definite option. But as a backup, and especially for multiples of hurleys, which you must have, I think, to put into young kids' hands to keep them playing often enough, I think it must be looked at as a serious option.
The Schlither is another expensive item in a hurling club's budget. It is made from a cork core, wrapped in a tightly wound covering of nylon and polyester thread. Here the machine can definitely speed the process. The Schlither is a much prized souvenir among crowds at big matches, and an astronomical number of them vanished during the centenary final in Thurles in 1984. When it comes to putting on the pre-made leather casing, the process slows down. There are no shortcuts to the finishing of a properly made schlitter. The sewing of the casing is done by a skilled operator. Seeing the various stages in the process does explain why a schlitter is such an expensive piece of sporting equipment. It is also one which can be written off in the course of one match on a wet day. Protective headgear, some with visors to shield eyes and nose from injury, are now worn by an increasing number of players, particularly in the underage and minor grades. Yet another expense for hurlers.
Helmets, in my opinion, are absolutely vitally important, particularly for young players. There's nothing I feel that turns a player off a game more than the risk of serious injury. It can also have a very traumatic effect on the parents, and particularly since the introduction of helmets with the facial protection, I think it has been a tremendous boost for the game of hurling, and I would make them obligatory.
Technical advancements have not brought success to traditional hurling counties such as Clare, who have not won an All-Ireland since 1914. Waterford did not win its first All-Ireland until 1948 and its second in 1959. Wexford had not won an All-Ireland since 1910 until they came back in 1955 to win the first of 4 titles. This Wexford team, with the 3 Rackard brothers, was a great influence on hurling in the 50s and 60s. The All-Ireland final of 1954 between Wexford and Cork drew a record attendance of almost 85,000. Dublin, winners of 6 All-Irelands up to 1938, have not won a Leinster Championship since 1961. In 1989, Antrim made the breakthrough that Offaly achieved 8 years previously by reaching the All-Ireland final.
Well, no breaks in this game at all. We've hit the post twice and we've had a couple of good efforts. We've just buzzing by the post. These boys aren't any good. They're not half as good as they were last
Their
year.
problems are both geographic and political.
Get that goal or them couple of points, these boys will start panicking. Then that's when we'll get them. And come on, let's get at it here in the second half. Let's run it.
Hurling became involved in politics hundreds of years ago. Later still, the hurley became a symbol of national resistance. It was carried on ceremonial occasions and was used for drilling when guns were not available.
Over the last few years, with the county team and Aberdeen doing so well, it's quite obvious that it's come through, especially to the juveniles, and a lot of coaching has went on in the schools, especially from members of the present county panel, and it certainly has improved kids that way, and I certainly think that the hurling in Antrim has definitely improved a tremendous level.
Well, the greatest problem that we have here is a geographical problem, and there is just no answer to it. The closest we have to getting into the stronger county teams are, Dublin's 155 miles from here. Kilkenny, Wexford, Tipperary, they're a bit further again.
We would think nothing of getting in the cars on Friday night and driving to Cork to play, and driving back home on Sunday. We have done it before, we'll do it again, to get matches at the highest level.
Earlier in 1989, the O'Donovan Rossa Club from the Falls Road in Belfast reached the All-Ireland Club final.
Getting to the final, we were a surprise packet in Antrim. We were a surprise packet to get out of Ulster. We shocked the nation getting out of Limerick, and getting to Croke Park. It totally changed the approach to hurling locally, especially in our own club. But all of a sudden, the Falls Road, which is famous for everything but hurling, had a team that it could admire, that had got the whole way through Ireland, had got to the last 2. And you almost felt 6 inches taller.
Their followers travelled with great enthusiasm to Croke Park to see them play Buffer's Alley from Wexford. Tony Doran of Buffer's Alley, a great hurler now in his 40s. This competition, which began in 1971, brings competitive hurling back to its basic unit of strength, which is also the strength of the Gaelic Athletic Association, the club and the parish that sustains it. The presence of Tony Doran on the Buffer's Alley team personifies the dedication to the club that is the hallmark of the association's players. However, Rossa failed to emulate the previous success of another Antrim club, Lochgee.
I would love to be back involved in Croke Park again. I think the players probably on the day didn't do themselves justice, you know. The big occasion, it takes a very good side to go to Croke Park on their first appearance and win an All-Ireland, and I think we'll also put it back hopefully the next couple of years if they keep working on it, you know.
Tony Doran looks as excited as he was when he won his first All-Ireland medal in minor grade a quarter of a century ago. He now has a unique collection of All-Ireland medals in all grades of hurling, as well as his county and provincial medals. It is this spirit that has kept hurling alive. Pat Daly, a former Waterford County hurler, is Games Development Manager for the GAA.
Being involved in the marketing or the promotional side of the game, I've come to the very definite conclusion that the most effective marketing instrument that any person could have or that any county could have is success at All-Ireland level. Counties like Laois, Waterford, Clare and Dublin haven't made a breakthrough. I think that, you know, it appears, particularly in Clare, that the groundwork has been laid, and invariably in counties where the groundwork has been laid, you know, the success has accrued.
The groundwork is also being laid in County Down. Seamus McGrattan from the Ards Peninsula is hurling officer for Ulster.
I was employed to increase the participants and to raise the standard of skill and the standard of level of the commitment of the teams that were already playing. Now, to do that, we started off in '76. We had 4 coaches. So the big job was to try and have a professional staff, if you would like to use that word, on the ground that would be able to coach the children whenever we got them interested. That was the first stage. We now have 264 hurling coaches in the province for coaching hurling too, and those are fairly well spread out throughout the 9 counties. It's very difficult to start hurling in a weaker area now without financial assistance. You're talking £6,000 a year to run a hurling club in a year, for to buy equipment and for travelling expenses and so forth. So therefore, we would be looking for some financial help towards that. I would also feel myself that a school-place hurling, that's a bonus. That the problem of developing hurling at juvenile level must rest with the unit of the association, that's the club. And the club must take on its responsibility and promote hurling at juvenile level.
Let's try it again. Up. Very good. Very good. That's the way to do it. 2 hands on that hurling.
The GAA also has a plan for the development of hurling in Dublin, particularly necessary since the decision was made to build on local talent at all levels up to the county senior team.
But we would have a plan, and basically what we would be endeavouring to do would be to develop the game on a phased and progressive basis in areas, parts of Dublin, areas like Tala, areas like Clondalkin, areas like Dunleary, places where you haven't had or you wouldn't have a strong tradition of the game. The association has recognised this and is prepared to put in the type of resources that will be required to bring up the standards and to ensure that we have the biggest possible number of young people playing the game in the city.
It's very, very important, number one, that people promoting hurling be eternal optimists, as it were. That is very, very important. And certainly Galway, had they become pessimistic about their achievements, which were very, very minimal indeed, would not have managed to come to the stage we're in now, or to the stage where we're in now, or the standard we've attained now, and have won so many national championships. Were it not for the fact that you had pioneering men of vision, in a sense, in the 60s, who, with the direction of central level, the Cushtamana drive, set about organisation and organising the juvenile game throughout the country. And I think that really we cannot overestimate the importance of organisation and planning at ground level and at county level in the development of the game. And I think that irrespective of the county's tradition, of their achievements, past or present, it is very, very important that you have a continuous work going on at underage level and that it be planned.
When Tipperary in 1987, when they started to win again, the following around the country was immense. And people got excited at the thoughts of hurling again. And the fact that the county was winning did an awful lot for the county, not alone in hurling terms, but people's spirits were lifted and people became excited and they were interested in going to matches, and their sons, they wanted their sons to play for Tipperary. Everybody got excited about it, and it did a lot for the county.
The robustness, like, plus the skill factor, plus the tradition, plus the intense competition, plus the playing for your own little village or your little parish or your own county, the obvious identification with colours on the field, like whether it's your club or your county or whatever. There's just that tremendous, as I am now looking in at games, like you never lose your passion for the team that you started to play with or the county that you promoted yourself to play with or whatever. So all that put together makes it a game and a half, in my opinion.
Look to the 8, 9, 10, 11-year-olds and see that they get the thrill that is associated with pulling on a rolling ball and contacting, making contact first time. And once a youngster gets that thrill into the system, they will want to go further.
It's a disease that you get smitten with, you never lose it. I think whenever you see the game of hurling played in its own simplicity, you won't get any bigger thrill in life.
The winning of a national title is the ultimate ambition of every hurler in every hurling county. To be part of the excitement of the day and the great welcome home. To be remembered forever in the annals of the game. The realization of that ambition takes years of dedication and the sacrifice of much free time. That it is considered worth every minute of it is clear. For hurling is all about the honour of the parish and the county, a place in history, and the realization of a dream that began in the imagination of a boy.
Ja, finish.